Factorising quadratics is what we're looking at in this video. It's split into 8 parts. So in part 1, we're looking at examples like this, where both the coefficient and the constant is positive. In part 2, we're looking at how to factorise something like this, where the constant is negative. In part 3, we're looking at examples like this, where the constant is negative. And then part 4, we're looking at examples where the coefficient and the constant is negative. And then we're looking at examples where the factorization has been done for us and we've been asked to solve that. Examples where we need to first factorize and then solve for this to find the values of x. And examples like this where it's not equal to 0. And finally, examples like this where we need to rearrange first. So the way my videos work, I'm going to do the example on the left, which is I do. You are then going to press pause and have worked the example on the right, which is you do. So here, we've been asked to factorize this. Okay. So what we need to do is the last number here, the constant, we need to write that down here, 12, and we need to write down all the ways we can multiply to get 12. So one way is 1 and 12, the other way is 2 and 6, the other way is 3 and 4. And that is it really, because if I go 4 and 3, that would be the same as that one there. So we don't need that one there. And now what we need to do is find two numbers that multiply to give us 12. So we've got all of them here, but also add or subtract to give us 7. And that's that one there. So these two multiply to give us 12 and they add to give us 7. Okay, so we're going to pick these two here for that reason. And now what we're going to do is put in some brackets like this to factorize. And we're going to put the 3 there, the 4 there, and that is it. That is our answer there. Okay, if you expand this out, you would end up with that there. Because if you expand this, you will get x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 12. And if you tidy that up, you get x squared plus 7x plus 12. So the final answer here is that right there. Okay, so hopefully you've pressed pause and had a correct example on the right. So we're going to copy out the constant 8. We're going to write all the ways you can get 8, which is 1 and 8, 2 and 4. And that is it. Now, which two of these add or subtract to give us 6? That would be them two, and they multiply to give us 8. So again, we put the brackets in, and then we just write 2 and 4. And again, you can double check your answer. If you expand this, you should end up with that. So here's some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Moving on. So here the constant is negative. Okay, so that's the only difference now. So this time we write minus 12. Now, two numbers that multiply to give us minus 12. Well, first we're going to ignore the sign for now. We're just going to do that and that. Okay, so we need two numbers that multiply to give minus 12 and add or subtract to give positive 4. So them two numbers are going to be these two. Why? Because if I stick a negative here and a positive there, that multiplies to give me minus 12, but that adds together to give me the positive 4. So my final answer here is that, and again, you can expand this out to double check the answer as well. Okay, that is the answer here. And hopefully, again, you've pressed pause and had a great example. All right, so minus 8, so 1 and 8, and 2 and 4. Now, again, we ignore the sign when we list out the multiples. We don't need to worry about that. Now, once we list out the multiples, we think, okay, how do I get positive 2 and negative 8 at the same time? So you get positive 2 and negative 8 at the same time. We need this one here. That gives us negative 8 and it gives us a positive 2. So that is my final answer. And again, you can expand this out to double check that as well. Again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Now, moving on. So this time we have got a negative x coefficient. Again, exact same approach, 15. So two numbers that multiply to give me 15. That's just these two, okay? Now, we need them to multiply to give 15, but add or subtract to give minus 8. So that one, if I stick two negatives here, because what you've got to remember is a negative and multiplied together becomes a positive. So that gives me positive 15, and it also gives me the negative 8x. And again, hopefully you've done this on this side. And the two that look interesting to me are those two there, because if I stick a negative there and there, that gives me negative 9. And if I was to multiply them together, that would give me the positive 20. So that is my answer there. Again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. So moving on. Now the both are negative. But again, the exact same approach. We're going to write minus 10 at the top. And remember, when we list out the multiples, we just ignore the sign. Okay, so we're listing out the multiples. Those are all the multiples of 10. Okay, that's how you get 10. Now we want two numbers that multiply to give negative 10 that add or subtract to give negative 3. So that would be these two here. Okay, so that would be positive 2 and negative 5. So x plus 2, x minus 5. So that gives you the negative 10 and it gives you the negative 3 when you expand that out. Okay. Now, again, hopefully you've pressed pause here and had a go. So that's 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Now, two numbers that multiply to give negative 15, that add or subtract to give the negative 2. So in this case, it would be them two. So that's that and that. And again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. So moving on, here we've been asked to solve. So the factorization's been done for us, and it's saying solve this. So it's saying, when is this equal to 0? So how do I make this bit 0 is all it's asking. Well, to make this first bracket 0, x needs to be minus 5. And to make this second bracket 0, x needs to be negative 2. So the answer to this question is x is negative 5 or negative 2, because putting this in there will make this whole thing 0. And if you multiply that by that, that becomes 0. And if this is 0, which is negative 5, multiplying that by that will give us the 0 there. That's all it is. So again, here, how do I make that 0? Well, x must be minus 11. How do I make that 0? X must be 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Okay, so again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a got the example on the right. So here, x is going to be 10 or 6, because if you put a 10 in there, 10 minus 10 is 0. If you put a 6 in there, 6 minus 6 is 0. And again, what do I put in here to make this 0? Well, I'm going to put minus 9 in there. And what do I put in here? Well, that's going to be 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0. Again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Moving on, so now we've been asked to solve this, so the factorization's not been done for us, so all we do is factorize it first. So 12, again, the usual method, take the 12, list out all the multiples of 12. Now, which two numbers add or subtract to give us 7? It's them two there. So when I factorize this, that's x plus 3, x plus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, and again, the final step is, well, how do I make this side equal to 0? Well, either I make this 0, so that's going to be minus 3, or I make this 0, which is going to be minus 4. So that's x is equal to minus 3 or minus 4. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this here. So two numbers that multiply to give 15 will be them two. So this becomes x plus 3, x plus 5 is equal to 0. So again, to make this bit here 0, we can say x is equal to negative 3. To make this bit here 0, we can say x is equal to negative 5. And again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Moving on, so this time it's not equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the 8. Now it's a positive 8. So to get rid of the positive 8, we subtract 8 from each side. So that becomes x squared plus 7x plus 12. And if I factorize that is equal to 0, that's just two numbers that multiply to give us 12, that add or subtract to give us 7. That'll be 3 and 4. So x is equal to minus 3 or minus 4. Okay. So again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. So we want to get rid of the 5. We do the opposite. It's a positive 5. We take 5 away from each side. So that becomes x squared plus 13x. And then we take 5 away from the 30. And that becomes that. And two numbers that multiply together to give me 30. That add or subtract to give me 13. So that would be 3 and 10. So x is equal to minus 3 or minus 10. Okay. Again, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Moving on, so with this one here, we want to move everything over to the left side. So to move the x minus, we're going to have to do minus 5x on each side to move that over. And we're going to have to do minus 24x on each side to move that over. So that becomes x squared minus 5x minus 24 is equal to 0. Now, two numbers that multiply to give me 24. So we can use 8 and 3. That looks about right. And that would give you the minus 5. There we go. So that'll be x minus 8 if I factorize that. So x is equal to 8 or x is equal to minus 3. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause here and had a go. So you take away 3x from each side, so move that here. So that becomes x squared minus 3x. And then you take away 28 from each side. So that becomes that. And again, we are looking for two numbers that multiply together to give us 28, that add or subtract to give me the negative 3. So that will be these two here. So x is equal to 7 or minus 4. Okay, here are some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. And that is the end of this video. If you would like some more practice on this, I've got a full worksheet on this over on my website, linked in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, I've got loads of other content like this on my YouTube channel. Do check it out.